Anunnaki Homeworld by Jason M. Breshears. Read by Kevin Stevens, also known as Grendel Dark. Archive 12, Stonehenge, and the Chronometry of Original Time. So men began to live and understand the destiny assigned to them by the course of the circling gods, leaving great memorials of their work on earth. Corpus Hermeticum. In this author's work, entitled Lost Scriptures of Giza, is profiled the history and evidence that the pre-Diluvian patriarchal prophet king Enoch designed the Great Pyramid, which was completed in 2815 BC, the year 1080 Annus Mundi. This sage was born in 3273 BC, 622 AM, and became the most famous of the Sethite kings. He was the son of Jared, who was specifically named in commemoration of the descent of the Watchers before the flood. His father witnessed against the Anunnaki and their Nephilim offspring, a ministry Enoch inherited, for in 3233 BC, when Enoch was 40 years old, he too began his ministry of witnessing against the giants and their Anunnaki fathers, about their depravity and the coming of divine punishment for both men and angels. This history is provided in Chronicon. But our learned king and prophet inherited something far more important to us today than an antediluvian ministry. As the Enochian records convey, he also learned the future. When his father was 40 years old in the year 3395 BC, which was the 500th year of the Annus Mundi and pre-corrupted Hebraic, Jared received a vision from the Lord concerning the end of the reign of the Watchers and the return of earth to paradise, the conclusion of sin and rebellion, and the dark oppression of angels over the sons of men. God informed Jared that this timeline would be concluded in exactly 5,500 years. This means that Jared, and then his son Enoch, knew the timeline of God, which translates into our own calendar today as 2106 AD, 6000 AM. When Enoch was in his 70th year of ministry, his prophetic messages took on another form. With his books written at instruction of the Spirit, he now employed the science of the builders and began his chronometry projects, literal stone megalithic prophecies immortalized within the dimensions of permanent stone. This year was 3163 BC, 732 AM, and the first project initiated by him was what is now called New Grange. This dating is confirmed by astrophysicist Tom Ray of Dublin Institute for Advanced Studies, who discovered that sunlight would have penetrated the back vault wall deep within the artificial mount of 5,150 years earlier, at the exact moment the sun emerged at the vernal equinox. Amazingly, this date is 732 Annus Mundi, paralleling the 732 years of Nibiru's sub-ecliptic orbit, 366 years to aphelion, and 366 years back. New Grange in Ireland is a gigantic earthwork site with a megalithic tunnel leading into a cruciform vault, which employs the same angular dimensions as Stonehenge. Its surrounding standing stones form the same 135-degree angle as Stonehenge's station stones. As these monuments display the same features, one is buried under tons of earth, while the other is open to the sky, and 8 total monoliths in the 135-degree geometry provides us with the calendrical and geometrical identity of the Great Pyramid, for 135 times 8 is 1080. More on this later. The similarities between New Grange and Stonehenge are detailed in The Stone Angle by Jack 1. The New Grange complex was finished by the vernal equinox, and the builders, along with their architectural prophet, then went on to southern England and erected the famous and enigmatic Stonehenge, the focus of this incredible archive. Many theories have been postulated about the purpose of the site, cultists seeing mystical application, while astronomers read into the stones various arbitrary alignments involving the stars or constellations. Culturalists attribute the site to Druids, having erected a wonderful temple, while more exotic theories serve to show that the site was built for an extraterrestrial purpose. None of these ideas approach the truth. With 100,000 stars in the heavens, it would be surprising not to find some alignment that a measure of significance could be attributed to. But the astronomers of today, even using advanced computers, have yet to publish anything convincing, substituting their flashy graphics and photographs for their lack of knowledge, and further increasing the mystery of the site. It was Sir Norman Lockyear's research in 1901 of Stonehenge that began the general belief that the ancient megaliths were associated to the stars, a concept he espoused in his Stonehenge and Other British Stone Monuments. The language of ancient prophecy was geometry, and the key to interpreting geometrical mysteries encoded within the marvelous structures left behind is by simple arithmetic of its chronometry. A structure's chronometry is determined by its dimensions, and an object's dimensions are simply its planes or faces, corners, and angles. These facts demonstrate that the architecture of the ancients, built prior to the Great Deluge, encode many secrets and facts about time. The formulae for determining a structure's chronometry is so simple that now, over 5,000 years after these monuments were built, protecting these secrets, we can interpret them with ease. Further, as we will see in the following archive, the same formulae used to decode Stonehenge and other monuments is the same used today to decode crop circles, the signs in the earth prophesied to come in the last days. The science of chronometry may have also given rise to the mystic knowledge of the Enochian alphabet, first brought to the public's attention by the famous Western occultist John Dee, who claimed that this was the language of angels, a language constructed from strange angles. Tracy Twyman notes that there may be a further connection between the English word angel, which means messenger, and the geometrical word angle. Interestingly, English is derived from the German family called the Angles, Anglo-Saxon. This author merely makes note of these parallels because Stonehenge is today standing in the land of the Angles. The site was erected in 3 distinct phases, Stonehenge 1, 2, and 3. This fact alone has engendered much scholarly confusion. Stonehenge 1, Outer Sarsen Ring, 30 Sarsen Pillars, 30 Sarsen Lintels. 1. Megalithic Sarsen Ring forms 360-degree circle of contiguous stone, identifying the archaic 360-day year. 2. Ancients divided the 360 degrees of heaven into 12 regions, zodiac. The 30 lintels, raised in air, signifying heaven, times 12 is 360, representing the astronomical year. 3. The 30 massive pillars are the foundation, supporting the raised lintels, each pillar having 4 sides. 30 times 4 is 120, the foundation number, a third of 360. 4. Each 6-sided stone has 8 corner angles. The 30 Sarsen pillars have 240 total corner angles, but only 120 are visible, 120 buried underground. 5. Each of the 6-sided lintels was attached end to end with advanced tongue and groove locks, eliminating 2 planes on each stone for a total of 120 visible planes. Each lintel maintains a spherical curvature forming a perfect raised ring, unlike anything else found among ancient megalithic architecture. 6. In antiquity, holy men were regarded as pillars, pillar of the community, who supported heaven. Men means stone, i.e., men here. as in the book of Revelation, where the redeemed among men shall become pillars in the temple of God, a pillar being the symbol of a repository of divine knowledge. The number of man is 6 in the last book of the Bible, Revelation, and in the first book, Genesis, mankind was created on the 6th day. Thus, the 60 sarsen pillars and lintels, each having 6 planes, 60 times 6 equals 360, links the concepts of mankind and time. 7. Total sum of corner angles and planes of the 30 lintels in the outer ring was 420. However, only 360 were visible due to their attachment end to end. 8. The 120 visible corner angles of the sarsen pillars, combined with the 240 visible joints of the lintel corner angles, are 360 total visible angles in the outer sarsen ring of Stonehenge. 9. The outer sarsen ring's planes and corner angles, combined together in sections 6, 7, and 8 above, demonstrate the sum of 360 3 different ways, for a total of 1080, 360 times 3. Great Pyramid finished 2815 BC, or 1080 Annus Mundi. 10. Total dimensional computation of sarsen rings pillars and lintels, 480 angles and 360 planes, multiplied against each other, is 86,400, the precise sum of seconds in a day, the second being the lowest ancient denominator of time, and 864 is the foundation of time number in seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, and years. There are many crop circles formed near Stonehenge that employ geometrical dimensions that mathematically equate to 864 and its variants. See crop circle calendrical codes. 11. Sarsen rings 30 pillared divisions times 360 produces 10,800. 12. Sarsen rings total of 60 stones, pillars, and lintels times 360 produces 216,000, the exact sum of days in a 600-year period, Great Year, or Anunnaki Nur period. The recurrence of 60 and its multiples denotes a connection to the Sumerian sexagesimal system. Conclusion. The outer sarsen ring of Stonehenge embodies the concept of original time in the beginning of men. The 360-day terrestrial year synchronized perfectly with the 360 degrees of the celestial sphere. Not coincidentally, the outer circular embankment around the site, ditch and wall, has a diameter of 360 feet. The sarsen ring identifies the calendrical units by which the rest of Stonehenge, the trilithons, and its later additions, bluestones, employ in its calendrical messages. These units of time encoded within the dimensions of the outer sarsen ring are 1 day, 86,400 seconds, 60 days, 86,400 minutes, 120 days and years, 360 days, 8,640 hours and years, 30 years, 10,800 days, 600 years, 216,000 days, Great Year, 1080 years, Annus Mundi year, Great Pyramid finished in 2815 BC. The connection to the Great Pyramid is made more profound by the fact that Stonehenge lies near 51.52 degrees latitude, and the sloping angle of the Great Pyramid's 4 faces is 51.52 degrees. The sarsens are a hard-grained sandstone rock emblematic of men, made from earth, sand, dirt, as opposed to the chemically altered metamorphic or igneous rock. The outer sarsen ring is 13 feet high, and the 10-foot-long lintels placed above them are 6 tons each. The sarsen pillars that support them are 6 feet wide and 3 feet thick, and weigh 25 tons each. Just this outer ring all connected together in amazing tongue and groove link with a circular curvature in the stone found nowhere else on Earth, weighed a total of 930 tons, specifically designed to endure for millennia. Stonehenge 1 Trilithons. These inner monoliths are virtual rock giants and the best preserved features of the Stonehenge complex. They are sarsen stones, 24 feet high and up to 45 tons. The trilithons are formed of 10 pillars, forming a horseshoe topped with 5 lintels. See facing page sketch. These lintels are not connected to one another as they are in the outer sarsen ring, giving one the distinct impression of 5 great ages. The 5 trilithons are like 5 portals, forming the inner sanctuary of Stonehenge. Their distribution forms an ancient geometrical symbol for the Creator, derived in antiquity from the belief that the eye of God was the pole star, the only star in the heavens that did not move, with all stars encircling it since the Earth's axial line pointed directly at it. To the ancients, this gave off the impression that all the stars in the sky worshipped the pole star. The trilithons first form this 5-point geometry, but the star symbol itself is formed also by the 4 station stones, see right. Outside the sarsen ring, and the long line below intersects within the trilithons to form this ancient sign for God. The total corner angles of all 15 trilithons are 120, 15 times 8, because the trilithons depict a pentagram with 5 corner angles. We find produce the sum of 600, 120 times 5. 600 years was a great year, also known as an Anunnaki Nur. The Great Flood of 2239 BC was the 600th regnal year of the Anunnaki kings who began to rule in 2839 BC, 600 years after they descended to Earth in 3439 BC. The pentagram forms the Sumerian Arub sign, the plow of God, a comet sent to break up the ground because his harvest, humanity, has ceased bearing fruit. This star is the same sign as the Kali Yuga, or Black Age. The sum of 600 is verified by the fact that the total sum of corner angles in the sarsen outer ring and sarsen trilithons is 600, 75 sarsens times 8. By extension, the 5-point geometry infers the greater period of 3,000 years, 600 times 5. The pentagram of 5 equidistant points is formed by 10 angles of 108 degrees, also reflected in 10 trilithon pillars. This 108 times 10 sum is 1080, the exact year the Great Pyramid was finished in 2815 BC, 1080 AM. When 3-dimensionally depicted, the pentagram forms a pyramid, right. Another formula producing the sum of 108 and 1080. 6 is the number of man, stone. 6 planes on each trilithon stone. 3 stones is a trilithon. 6 times 6 equals 36. 36 times 6 equals 216. 108 plus 108. As each trilithon becomes 216, 5 trilithons add up to 1080. 216 times 5. Conceptually, each of the 10 pillars of the 15 trilithons represents 108. Further, the 10,800 produced by the outer sarsen ring are replicated here in the sarsen trilithons. This is found in multiplying the 120 corner angles by the 90 planes, 15 times 6, to get 10,800. This is evidence that the sarsens, outer contiguous ring and inner trilithons, were the original Stonehenge, their dimensions complementing each other. The repetition of the number 6, 6 times 6 times 6, provides us with a clue as to the importance of this complex to both God and man. The cube of 6 forms the gematria for Dabir, or most holy place, which represents that the stone, symbol for man, is the container of something of epic magnitude, the Holy Spirit. This is the secret message underlying the difference between Stonehenge 1 and Stonehenge 2, the introduction of the blue stone ring and horseshoe. As we will see in this archive, the blue stones represent the Anunnaki, and these primordial beings were offended that their own creation, mankind, when they acted as the builders who performed the work for the Creator, would contain within them a portion of the Spirit of the living God, despite the fact that these beings, mortals, were made of mud. Because the trilithons are not connected as the outer sarsen ring by lentils, each trilithon has 18 faces, combined planes of all three stones, and 24 angles producing the sum of 432, 144 times 3, or 108 times 4. As there are 5 trilithons, this is what is unveiled. 1. 432. Gematria for world, habitation, all nations. 2. 864. Foundation of time, seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, years. 3. 1296. 144 times 9, or 108 times 12. 4. 1728. 144 times 12, or 108 times 16. 5. 2160. 1080 times 2, one house of the zodiac. 216 times 10. Once we add the 360, conceptually realized in the outer sarsen ring, to the trilithon message, we get 2520, 360 times 7, resulted by adding 360 to 2160. The prophetic writing on the wall in the Babylonian palace the prophet Daniel interpreted was mene, mene, tekel, upharsin, meaning literally numbered, weighed, divided, while also being geometrical messages equaling 1000, 500, and 20, or 2520. The fall of Babylon in that very night to Persia in 537 BC began a 2,520-year countdown to the 1984 AD Iran, Persia, Iraq, Babylon War. In this author's prior work, When the Sun Darkens, is found a detailed analysis of world history as it unfolds in 414-year periods, 207 plus 207. A system called the Cursed Earth Chronology, which began with the ruin of the pre-Adamic world in 4309 BC and ended 6,210 years later in 1902 AD, 5796 AM, beginning a 144-year countdown to 2046 AD. This system is specifically referenced in the Stonehenge 1 chronolithic dimensions of the complex. The cursed Earth system involves the planet Phoenix darkening the sun, as well as transitioning comets, as well as impacts. The 6,210-year longevity of the cursed Earth system is referenced by taking 207 times 30 sarsen pillars, 6,210. The 1902 AD end date of this cursed Earth system serves to show how the Stonehenge calendar merges into the beginning of the Giza course countdown that began in 1902 AD and counts up through the monument 203 levels of masonry until the year 2106 AD, when the chief cornerstone descends in 6,000 Annus Mundi to vanquish the Anunnaki. Stonehenge Cursed Earth Calendar. Time is governed by the motion of the planet around the sun. Typological symbol for God. The 5 trilithons embody the concept of an astronomical planetary clock that will indicate the coming of judgment upon mankind. The trilithons are 5 planetary gates for Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The Great Trilithon's height, down to the floor entrance of the Sarsen outer ring, is 23 degrees. The angular tilt of our own planet, which is the result of judgment. The number for the concept of judgment is 9. The product of 23 times 9 is 207. The sum of 207 is the base calendrical period in the cursed Earth calendar. The designer of Stonehenge, Enoch, was aware of the coming deluge that would destroy the world and result with the 23-degree tilt of the planet, broken planet. The monument was designed to convey the message that the planets would warn mankind when the final epoch, 207 years, began. This occurred in the year 2446 BC, 1449 AM, as recorded by Chinese astronomers when, 207 years before the flood, 2239 BC, the entire world witnessed all of the visible planets in a straight line, like a ladder into heaven. The 10 trilithon pillars add up to 2070 years, 207 times 10. This is important calendrically because the Great Flood of 2239 BC was exactly 2070 years after the total destruction of the pre-Adamic world in 4309 BC. 207 years is the base sum calendrical unit of the cursed Earth system, the prime epoch measuring 414 years. The trilithon geometry of the pentagram times 414 is 2070. The trilithons each produce the sum of 432 years, but applying the same mathematical formula by which we interpret crop circles that appeared next to Stonehenge in 1996, Julius Sett, we arrive at the sum of 414 years. 24 angles times 18 faces of trilithons is 432. 432 minus the faces is 414. The Julius Sett, next to Stonehenge on Salisbury Plain, is a 1996 crop circle formation that encodes the sum of 4140, 10 cursed Earth periods. The entirety of the cursed Earth chronology is 6,210 years, 414 times 15 trilithons, or 2,070 times 3 years from 4309 BC, when the pre-Adamic world was completely destroyed, to 1902 AD, 5796 AM, being year 1 of the Giza course countdown of levels of bricks to year 6000 Annus Mundi, 2106 AD. The 144th year of the Giza count is 2046 AD, when a comet or asteroid will destroy a third of the Earth. The mathematical, geometrical, and chronometrical relationships between Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid are many, which is to be expected because the architectural prophet Enoch designed them both. The 2070 years of Stonehenge becomes the year 2070 Anno Pyramid, 2070 years from completion of the Great Pyramid in 2815 BC. This is 745 BC. 3150 AM, when the tribes of Israel were first deported out of their lands of inheritance by the Assyrians and scattered, later migrating into Asia and Europe. This began an exile period of judgment for 2,520 years, 360 times 7, until the reemergence of the descendants of the lost tribes would convene and begin a last days empire, prophetically known as Ephraim and Manasseh, the 13th tribe, the empire of adoption. These 2,520 years ended at 1776 AD, American Revolution, 5670 AM. This final empire of Israeli descendants has forgotten who they are. Manasseh means forgetful, and they will dominate for 270 years until a comet destroys their empire in 2046 AD. This judgment completes the design of the Creator in putting all of Israel back into the lands of their forefathers. For prior to comet impact in North America, there will be a massive exodus of American refugees who who will by then understand that they are genetically linked to ancient Israel, and others will understand that even without blood kinship, they are adopted through faith into the people of God. 414 years before 1776 AD was 1362 AD, when the Norse and Goths explored North America and left the Kensington Stone. The Stonehenge sign of the planetary gates provides us warning in our own generation. In 1940 AD, a stunning 5-planet alignment of Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn formed a ladder in the sky as recorded by the Chinese and found in ancient Egyptian symbolism. This indicates that judgment is coming. That this judgment is coming to break up Sumerian Arab America is found in the fact that 207 years prior to the 1940 AD planetary alignment was the year 1733 AD, when the 13th original colony of America was founded, Georgia. Trilithon calendrical unit, 414, 4,140, 600, 3,000 or 6,000, 1080, 2070, 2520, 3,000. Perimeter mound. This is a 360-degree circular embankment built with the sarsen ring and trilithons that make up Stonehenge 1. It has 2 breaks. When lines are made to intersect at the center of the complex, they form a 135-degree angle. This is another similarity with the Great Pyramid. 135 times 8 equals 1080. Seen priorly in the station stones and in Newgrange's standing stones. Double break in the embankment implies year will be broken twice, 713 BC and 2046 AD. The sum of 120 has reappeared over and again in Stonehenge, a sum biblically significant. Noah was warned 120 years before the flood that the earth would be destroyed. Moses lived 120 years, fulfilling a prophetic destiny. The number 120 is 40 times 3, the sum of 40 years being a generation of man. It is also emblematic of spiritual maturity, and we note that both Jared and Enoch were 40 when they began their ministries, and Moses was 40 when he had his first encounter with God in Midian. The intent of the station stones was to form a rectangle, and geometrically, the number 40 translates into a 5 by 8 rectangle, which itself conceals a latent geometrical clue underlying the science of Stonehenge. Stonehenge was specifically designed to target 5796 Annus Mundi, 414 times 14, the year the Giza countdown began 144 years prior to 2046 AD. The 15 megaliths that form the 3 trilithons each represent a 414-year period in the 6,210-year timeline to 1902 AD, the first 414 years being prior to the start of the Annus Mundi calendar, when, in 4309 BC, the Earth was destroyed in a pre-Adamic cataclysm caused by the Anunnaki. The overt geometrical message of the trilithons is that of comet impact, for the pentagram formed of intersecting lines connecting the 5 portals forms the Sumerian Arab symbol, explained in Descent of the Seven Kings. Further associating Stonehenge 1 to the cursed Earth chronology, demonstrated in When the Sun Darkens, is the existence of the terribly misunderstood monolith called the Slaughter Stone, a sarsen giant being 20 feet long, 7 feet wide, and 5 feet thick, which originally stood upright. Presently, this enigmatic colossus lies beside the causeway outside Stonehenge proper. Only because it had been moved can Stonehenge serve as an excellent place to observe the summer solstice. Because archaeologists cannot fathom why the entire magnificent Stonehenge complex would be erected, only to have a single monolith block the path of the sun's light into the inner sanctuary, thereby annulling what they believe was the intent, to view the sun, the Slaughter Stone is totally ignored. it doesn't fit their interpretation. Therefore, it remains omitted from serious scientific consideration. Perplexed, but not silent, they concocted the story, without evidence, that this monolith was for sacrifices, naming it the Slaughter Stone. Case closed. In 2239 BC, the sun darkened, and the planet was virtually destroyed in the 3000th year of the Anunnaki chronology, begun 5239 BC, and 2070 years after the pre-Adamic world met an even worse fate. In 1687 BC, the sun darkened, and a global quake destroyed many megalithic cities around the world. The sun darkened 3,000 years later in 1314 AD, when Niburu occulted it in transit, attended by plagues, quakes, and disasters. In the year 1135 BC, the sun darkened, and again in 583 BC, when Thales predicted it, as well as in 1764 AD, when astronomer Hoffman observed the phenomenon. Every one of these events occurring on a specifically predictable timeline, the cursed chronology. This is the secret of the Slaughter Stone being all to itself out on the causeway. When placed back in its original position, this gigantic block of stone will darken the sun. In fact, this stone is also called the heel stone, anciently referred to as Freya Seal, or Day of the Sun. Long ago, Druids or some other visitors to the site toppled the monolith to the edge of the causeway, not comprehending its significance, or perhaps it was an earthquake. Inside the Trilithon sanctuary is located the altar stone, a sandstone of green micaceous rock. It is 16 feet long, 3.5 feet wide, and 1 foot 9 inches high, weighing 6 tons. The combined weight of the Stonehenge 1 sarsens, outer ring, lintels, trilithon, slaughter stone, and altar stone is approximately 1,400 tons, possibly more. An outer embankment encircles it, 6 feet deep, with the rise being 6 feet high. Stonehenge 1, erected in 3163 BC, 7:32 a.m., consists of all sarsens. 30 sarsen pillars, outer ring, 30 sarsen lintels, outer ring, 10 sarsen pillars, trilithons, 5 sarsen lintels, trilithons, 4 station stones, sarsens inside embankment, 1 altar stone, sarsen, 1 slaughter stone, sarsen. Combined total is 81 sarsens, with only 80 of them inside the Stonehenge embankment, because the slaughter stone is located outside, along the causeway. Despite the apocalyptic motifs seen in the timelines associated with Stonehenge geometry, it can almost be maintained that Stonehenge also serves as a type of messianic timeline, because of its terminal link to 1902 AD, a calendar by itself that, through masonry, marks the years to the descent of the chief cornerstone. The date for Stonehenge's beginning in 3163 BC is evidence in another compelling way. Alexander's scholar friend, Callisthenes, found a Babylonian record claiming that their history spanned back 34,000 years. But this is a lunar code to be divided by 12 months, which gives us 2,833.3 years. And counting backward, this 2,833.3 years from 330 BC gives us the precise year of 3163 BC, Enoch's 70th year of ministry when Stonehenge 1 was completed. With Stonehenge 1 complete, we now enter into Stonehenge 2, and the incredibly fascinating crypto prophecies of modern crop circles.